Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Is it Monday already? My, how time flies. This week, guest starring none other than the mighty Jingles himself. There he is. My small but perfectly formed World of Warcraft gnome warlock. Today, while you're watching this video, assuming of course that you watch it on the day it's released, I will be on my way to the Russian embassy in London. What on earth would you want to go there for, Jingles? Well, I might have mentioned in a previous episode of Mingles with Jingles that Wargaming are getting in on the whole BlizzCon, CitizenCon act, and this year they're having the inaugural, very first Wargaming Fest to be held in Moscow on the 17th of December. And I'm going along, as is Rita. Unfortunately, it turns out that one does not simply go to Russia. There are all kinds of hoops that you have to jump through in order to get a visa so you can actually go to Russia. Now, Russia isn't the only country in the world that a British citizen requires a visa to enter. I have to get a visa anytime I want to go to the USA, but, well, I can do an online application for an American visa in 15 minutes, and it's approved in 15 minutes. It's really quite simple. It's not that simple if you want to go to Russia. They want to know every single last detail about me, including, but not limited to, every country I've visited in the last 10 years. I was in the Royal Navy. I've been to a lot of countries in the last 10 years, so that alone took half an hour, trying to get all of the details of the various different places I've visited over the course of the last 10 years. They want to know if I have any experience or specific training handling firearms or explosives. Well, I was in the Royal Navy for 22 years, so yes, I do have some experience of handling firearms and explosives, and of course when I answered yes to that question, that opened up a massive can of worms. Oh, they were very interested at that point in knowing exactly what kind of experience I had with firearms and explosives, so that took about another 20 minutes. It took about an hour overall to get this visa application filled in. Remember? American visa application, and they did ask some pretty stupid questions on the American visa application as well, like, for example, are you now or have you ever been a member of a terrorist organisation or an extremist political group? Who answers yes to a question like that? Actually, yes, I'm in Al-Qaeda. Is that going to be a problem? But dumbass questions aside, American visa application over, done and approved in 15 minutes flat. Russian visa application, not so much. So after spending an hour filling in questions, even then the process isn't over and done with, because while they have an online application form, you then have to print out that online application form after you've spent an hour completing it and take it, along with your last 3 months' bank records, to the Russian embassy in London, where, and I'm not making this up, they will fingerprint you. You'd think I was filling out an application to join the KGB, when all I want to do is look at some games and take a picture of myself in Red Square. Also, I couldn't help but notice some substantial differences between my visa application and Rita's visa application. Mine ran to something like 15 pages once I was done. Rita's, 3 pages. All they wanted to know for Rita was what's your name, where were you born, is your passport valid, and how long do you want to stay in Russia. They didn't even want to know where she was staying. Yeah, Portuguese. Nobody expects the Portuguese to be up to no good. Yeah, in you come, no problem. Me, they didn't just want to know which hotel I was staying in, they practically wanted to know which side of the bed I was planning on sleeping on. What problem do the Russians have with the British? It's not like we have a history of antagonism between the... Oh, actually we do, don't we? Yeah, that might explain it. Anyway, I'm sure it's going to be fun. That is, of course, assuming we actually get the visas approved, which, you know, is not guaranteed at this stage. Also, remember, American visa application form, done and approved in 15 minutes online. Russian visa application form, well, after you've jumped through all of the hoops, you've been to the embassy, you've had your fingerprint taken, you've supplied your photographs, you've had them scrutinise your bank records. Even then, it still takes 10 working days. And a quick glance at a calendar will tell you that we don't actually have 10 working days. So on top of all of that, I'm going to have to pay for a fast-track visa application. I'm sure it's going to be worth it. I've never been to Russia before, so I really don't want to miss this opportunity. Speaking of things that have been pissing me off this week, Cashpoint machines, or for those of you on the western side of the Atlantic, ATMs. I'm a busy guy. I just want to take my cash and go. I don't want to check my balance. I know how much is in my account. I certainly don't want a printed statement, so I just press the button that says give me the money. It then asks you how much money you want to withdraw, so you input the amount and you hit the next button. And then it asks me if I want to check my balance. No, I don't want to check my balance. Do you know how you can tell I don't want to check my balance? I didn't press the button that said show me the balance. Instead, I pressed the button that said cash withdrawal only. So why are you asking me if I want to check my balance? So no, I don't want to check my balance. So I'm standing around expecting my cash to appear, and then it asks me if I would like to print a balance statement. At this point, I swear they're just doing it to wind me up. I've started to develop a theory about this. I think that the banks are now operating on a commission, kind of like a premium rate telephone number. And for some reason, the bank is actually making money the longer it can keep me standing in front of the Cashpoint machine answering no to its stupid bloody questions. While we're on the subject of stupidity, always a popular topic, I got an email this week. Well, actually, I got a lot of emails this week, but one in particular stood out. This one was from PayPal. Oh, I better pay attention to this one, I thought. PayPal wanted to inform me that there had been some unusual activity on my PayPal account, and my account security could have been compromised. So if you just click on the link in the email, you can go and verify your account information and ensure that nobody unauthorized has access to your PayPal account. Wow, I thought this is pretty serious. Actually, hold on a minute. Since when have PayPal been using Gmail email addresses? Really? You're not even trying anymore, are you, online scammers? I mean, Gmail, seriously. Who falls for this kind of shit? I mean, every now and then I will get an actual message from PayPal. I mean, they change their terms and conditions every now and then, and they'll email everybody to ensure that they're aware of the changes to the terms and conditions and provide a handy link in the email for you to go to PayPal and click the I accept the changes in the terms and conditions buttons. But I don't even trust that. And these are emails from a paypal.com email address, but you can fake those. So I don't even trust them. Instead, the best thing to do, if you do get one of these emails, whether it's claiming to be from your bank or from PayPal or, you know, anybody else who handles money for you, ignore the email. Go direct to the website in your web browser. Don't click on any links and just have a look at the front page. Because if there are changes to the terms and conditions or there are security alerts, it'll be right there for you. Don't click on links in emails, for God's sake, especially ones that come from Gmail email addresses. I mean, how stupid do they think I am? Then again, they operate on the throw enough shit at the wall and some of it's going to stick policy. Clearly, somebody is stupid enough to click on a link from an email from a Gmail email address that's claiming to be from PayPal. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. But you have to be pretty stupid to fall for something like that. Then again, well, I don't consider myself a particularly stupid person, but even smart people do stupid things every now and then. I can remember once I was a little busy. I needed to go to the post office in town in order to post something. Can't remember what it was, it's not important. Along the way, I popped into a newsagent and bought a magazine to read on the bus on the way home. Got to the post office, bought a stamp, stuck it to the front of the letter, took the magazine and the letter to the post box outside the post office, posted the magazine, and then carried the letter all the way back to the bus stop. Sat down, started to read the letter and realised, hang on, this is a letter. Oh, you've got to be kidding. Yes, I've done that. The point, of course, is that, you know, even people who consider themselves intelligent do stupid things all the time. And I did something remarkably stupid this week as well. It's going to be quite embarrassing to admit this, and I will have to go into a certain level of explanation so you can actually understand just how mind-bogglingly stupid it was. You may be aware that I've been playing quite a lot of World of Warcraft since the latest expansion came out, and one of the big features of the expansion was they'd introduced a new character class, the Demon Hunter. So I rolled myself a Demon Hunter. I think they start at level 98, you know, you don't have to grind all the way up. And immediately started playing through the new expansion as a Demon Hunter. And it was kind of tough going. Now, the thing about the Demon Hunter is, unlike other classes in the game, which get all of their skills and talents by the time they reach level 100, the Demon Hunter isn't really fully fleshed out as a character until it reaches the new level cap of level 110. All of the talents that go to making up the way the character works aren't available until you reach maximum level. And even then, they're still not really that good until you start leveling up their artifact weapon a bit and get some of the unlocks available on that. And then the Demon Hunter really does start to come into its own and is a fairly powerful character. And yet, at the same time, even despite doing all of that, I was really struggling with my Demon Hunter. I just wasn't feeling it. I thought, am I doing it wrong here? I just didn't get it. Now, you have to understand that the Demon Hunter has two different talent specializations available. One's called Havoc, and that's damage dealing, and the other is called Vengeance, and that's basically for tanking, for taking damage. And I'd chosen to level my Demon Hunter up as a tank. Now, the way it works is you have certain abilities that generate a resource, and in the case of a Vengeance Demon Hunter, that resource is pain. So, yeah, for some reason, I couldn't seem to generate any pain while I was in combat, and that meant that I couldn't use any of my special abilities. So what this meant was that anytime I got into combat, I was basically doing lots and lots of auto-attacking, right? And not a lot of special abilities, and it was dull as shit. So I really wasn't feeling it with the Demon Hunter. Well, anyway, I sort of auto-attacked my way up to the new level cap, level 110, and then several days after reaching the level cap, I'm browsing my spellbook when I noticed something. It was an ability that I hadn't been using, hadn't even been aware existed up until that point. Hello, what's this? It's an instant attack that shears an enemy for 8, generates 10 pain. Ah. I think I might have found the source of my problem. Oops. And that's not all. Turns out I hadn't been using this either. Or this. Or even this. And just to put this into perspective for you, this is the equivalent of downloading World of Tanks, jumping into your first Tier 1 tank, and then grinding your way to Tier 10, using tanks in their stock configuration only, firing nothing but high explosive ammunition. And I did that. Well, not the World of Tanks thing. I mean, although people do dumb shit like this in World of Tanks as well. I recall people admitting that they'd played artillery up to Tier 5 or 6 before even realising that there was such a thing as a top-down artillery view. Other people who hadn't bothered to hit the auto-resupply button on their tanks and had gone into battle with no ammunition loaded. More than once. And remember, these are people who consider themselves to be fairly intelligent, but they've done some, and myself included as the previous example just illustrated, have done some mind-bogglingly stupid shit. Now that doesn't mean we're all idiots, but it just goes to show that even the most intelligent people can do some mind-bogglingly stupid stuff every now and then. So next time you're playing your favourite online multiplayer game, doesn't matter whether it's World of Tanks, World of Warships, whatever, and for one reason or another, maybe it was your own fault, maybe it wasn't, you've been knocked out and you're watching the rest of your team snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and behaving in an increasingly erratic manner, suffering from what can only be described as a severe pants-on-head moment. Just because they're doing something stupid doesn't mean they are idiots. It can happen to the best of us. And now, it's the return of Badass of the Week by popular request. Has anybody ever heard of Count Felix von Luckner? Nope? Well, strap yourselves in, because you're about to. He was born on the 9th of June 1881 to an aristocratic German military family in Dresden. Most of his family had been Prussian-style cavalrymen, and he was pretty much expected to follow in the family tradition, but he had other ideas. At the age of 13, he stole his dad's pistol, ran away from home, and volunteered to work a Russian sailing ship as an unpaid cabin boy. A couple of weeks after joining the ship, he got knocked overboard in a storm. The captain of the Russian ship said, "Screw him." Seriously, we're not risking our lives turning back to save him. So in the middle of a storm, and bizarrely for some reason, while being attacked by a flock of albatrosses, he managed to swim back to the ship and climb back on board. Several weeks later, the Russian ship arrived in Australia, and von Luckner very wisely decided to get off. The next 7 years, nobody's really sure what he got up to. What we do know is that he got a job as an assistant lighthouse keeper, but he got fired from that when the lighthouse keeper found him screwing his daughter. He hunted kangaroos, he worked as a boxer, fighting for a living. He worked as a bartender, he got thrown out of hospital in Jamaica because he couldn't afford to have doctors reset his broken leg, and he got thrown into jail in Chile for stealing pigs. Eventually, at the age of 20, much to the surprise of his parents, who probably figured he was long dead by then, he returned to Germany. He attended Lübeck Navigation College, got a master's degree from Papenburg Nautical College, and enlisted in the German Navy just before the outbreak of World War I. He fought in the Battle of Jutland in 1916 as a member of the crew of the German König-class battleship, the Crown Prince, and he must have been doing something right, because in December of that year he was given his first command, the auxiliary cruiser Sea Eagle. The Sea Eagle was basically a three-masted sailing ship with two hidden 105mm guns and a whole bunch of 7.92mm machine guns. And do not adjust your set, you did hear that right. A sailing ship in 1916, when the world's navies consisted of increasingly large and powerful dreadnoughts. He was basically given command of something that looked like it had just come out of Pirates of the Caribbean. Von Luckner's mission? To get out there and raid Allied merchant shipping. Von Luckner's problem? The Royal Navy had the entire German Navy bottled up with the blockade in the North Sea. No shipping got in or out of the German Empire. Von Luckner was not going to let a little detail like this stop him, and so he put to sea, and within 5 days was approached and boarded by the crew of HMS Avenger, sending a detachment of Royal Marines and Royal Navy officers on board to investigate what was going on with this three-masted sailing ship. Speaking perfect Norwegian, von Luckner assured them that they were a Norwegian whaler, and they fell for it, and allowed them to proceed upon their merry way. The decision to let von Luckner go was really going to bite the Royal Navy in the arse, because he immediately went to work hammering the crap out of merchant shipping all throughout the Atlantic. It would work like this. He'd either run down a merchant ship, or he would send out a distress call so that they'd come over to assist him. Then he'd board the ship, stick guns in everybody's faces, demand they surrender, and take the crew prisoner. They would then investigate the cargo, plunder anything worthwhile, sink the ship, and then head off on their way. He did this for 4 months, smashing British, French, and Italian shipping all up and down the sailing lanes. Apparently, he later wrote how he really hated that Holland was neutral in the First World War, because the Dutch ships were always carrying really awesome booze, but he wasn't allowed to plunder it since they weren't at war with Germany. By the way, he did this without killing anybody. He sank 64,000 tons of merchant shipping in the First World War in a sailing ship, and he didn't kill a single person doing it. Now, while that was admirable, it shortly presented him with a different problem, because now he had 300 prisoners on his ship, and he really didn't have room to take on any more. So the next time he captured a ship, which was a French ship called the Cambron, rather than sinking it, he just looted it, pulled down the mainmast, stripped its weapons, put all 300 prisoners on the ship, and told them just wait 24 hours and then sail it into Rio de Janeiro. In 1917, the USA entered the war, and this made life in the Atlantic a real pain in the ass for Felix von Luckner. He attacked and sank 2 American transport ships, bringing his total of ships sunk to 11, and then decided he had to get the hell out of there before somebody jammed a battleship up his ass. He rounded Cape Horn, attacked and sank 3 more British ships, and then headed to the Society Islands to find a nice, quiet, deserted island where he could refit, repair, and resupply. However, as he closed in on Mapelia Island, he got caught in a tidal wave, dragged his anchor, and ran aground on a coral reef just off the island. The ship sank after a few hours. Apparently, if you visit the island today, you can go scuba diving and still see the wreckage. Well, before the ship went down, Luckner was able to evacuate all of his crew and his prisoners and strip the hold of its supplies and food. So his men set up camp on the island, and Luckner took 5 men, loaded them into one of the ship's boats, and basically took a rowboat from Tahiti to Fiji. It took a month, and they sailed 1,800 miles of open ocean. They landed in Fiji in September 1917 and once again tried to pass themselves off as Norwegians, but the Fijians weren't having any of that shit. Von Luckner was arrested and sent to New Zealand, where they were pretty pissed off with him, because they blamed him for the sinking of the passenger ship Wairuna that had caused the deaths of nearly 100 innocent civilians, and it did take them a while to realise that Luckner hadn't been the captain responsible for that attack. As you can expect, he immediately went to work on his escape. He and his crew tapped the prison telephone lines. They built a working sextant for navigating from materials that they'd stolen. On the evening of December the 13th, 1917, they popped open their cell doors, cut the camp's power, cut the telephone lines, stole the camp commandant's personal motorboat, which was now proudly flying a homemade Imperial German naval flag that they'd made from a bedsheet and an empty bag of flour. And the next morning, off the coast of the Mercury Islands, Luckner and his 5 crew sailed straight up to a New Zealand civilian fishing ship, boarded it, stuck a pistol in the captain's face, and took it over. His plan was now to attack the island's supply depot, load up on gear, and then bring it back to Tahiti to the wreck of the Sea Eagle. But before he could continue his prison break, he was run down by a New Zealand warship and forced to surrender. He spent the rest of the war in a prison camp. But it did work out okay for the crew stranded in Tahiti with the wreck of the Sea Eagle, because when a French commercial ship sailed over to check out the wreckage, they boarded it, took it over, and sailed it to South America. Von Luckner returned home to Germany after the war, wrote his memoirs, gave a lot of talks, and was basically a massive hero all across the country. In the 1930s, he sailed around the world, visiting Australia, New Zealand, where he was greeted with open arms as a worthy and noble adversary, and he toured the United States. During World War II, Hitler tried to use him for propaganda purposes, but when Luckner refused to give up his position as a Freemason and his honorary citizenship to the city of San Francisco, Hitler froze his bank accounts, accused him of being a paedophile, and tried to have him arrested. He was later sentenced to death by the Nazis for the crime of handing out passports to Jews so they could escape Germany, but the sentence was never actually carried out. After the war, he moved to Sweden, married a nice Swedish woman, and died in 1966 at the age of 84. And that is just about it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles, but there is just one other thing that I need to mention before we go, because I've got some loot to give away, and it's seriously high quality loot. I have 2 Arozzi Vernazza gaming chairs, valued at €359 each. Arozzi have just done a deal with World of Tanks, and they're now selling these World of Tanks branded chairs on the World of Tanks shop. But I've got 2 of them to give away for free. The only stipulation is it's EU only. I'm sorry about that, there's nothing I can do. Arozzi have specified that for the purposes of this giveaway, they're delivering to EU only. So if you are in the EU and you fancy a very, very expensive leather-clad bum warmer, much like the one that I am currently sitting in while recording this video, I can attest to just how comfortable and high quality these chairs are, by the way. I don't have the exact model that's being sold in the Wargaming shop or that we're giving away today, but I do have one very, very similar that I was lucky enough to win for being on the winning team at the World of Warships exhibition match at the Wargaming League Grand Finals in Warsaw this year, and it really is a serious quality piece of bum-warming equipment. I'll be running the giveaway until the end of the week, at which point I'll contact the 2 lucky winners and pass the details on to Arozzi so that they can arrange for delivery of your 2 chairs. Now, your chances of winning, I have to say, are not great. I have 2 chairs to give away, and I've just quickly had a look, and the giveaway's been up for a couple of hours as I'm recording this, and there have already been 1,700 entrants. So, well, you don't have much chance of winning one, but if you don't enter, you've got no chance of winning one. I will also, in the video description, along with the link to the giveaway itself, very important I mention that, I'll also put a link to the World of Tanks shop, where if you don't win one, and you've got €359 to burn, you can always go ahead and buy one. And that is it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I need to get this video rendered, processed, uploaded, stick a thumbnail on it, write a video description, make sure I get all of the links correct, and get my ass into bed because I have to be up early to go to the Russian embassy to see about a visa. I'm sure that's going to be all kinds of fun. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. As always, take care, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next time.